This is The Top, where I interview entrepreneurs who are number one or number two in their industry in terms of revenue or customer base. You'll learn how much revenue they're making, what their marketing funnel looks like, and how many customers they have.
I'm now at $20,000 per talk.
5 and 6 million.
He is hell-bent on global domination.
We just broke our 100,000 units sold mark.
And I'm your host, Nathan Latka.
This is episode 702. Coming up tomorrow morning, I talk to Paul, and he breaks down the accidental $10,000 per month side project. Well, heck, how can you stumble into your own accidental 10 grand per month? Be sure to tune in tomorrow morning.
Good morning, everybody. My guest this morning is Kathryn. She is the CEO and founder of TheMuse.com, a career platform used by over 50 million folks to find a job, learn professional skills, or advance in their careers, and by hundreds of companies looking to grow their employer brand and to hire. Now, Kathryn is a Wall Street Journal and Harvard Business Review contributor, and she's spoken at MIT and Harvard, along with the Today Show and CNN. She's been named a Smart CEO's Future 50 and Inc.'s 35 Under 35, a Duke alum. Kathryn worked in Rwanda with the Clinton Health Access Initiative before founding TheMuse and was previously at McKinsey and Company. Kathryn, are you ready to take us to the top?
I am really excited to be here.
Thank you for making the time. So tell us first, for those folks that are not familiar, what is TheMuse, and specifically, what's your revenue model? How do you generate money?
Yeah, so TheMuse was founded to be the most trusted and beloved place for people to navigate their career. What does that mean? It means we function essentially like a marketplace. We have over 50 million people who use the site every year to find a job, get to that next step, talk to a career coach, get advice, learn a skill, anything that's related to taking charge of your career and sort of living the life that you want. And then on the other side, we have over 600 companies from Facebook, Dropbox, Slack to HBO, Goldman Sachs, Marriott, businesses large and small, and we help them with hiring and employer branding. So the way I like to think about it is, the sort of old way of doing things was a company could just put up a job description and expect that some of the most talented people in the world were going to line right up to come in. That's no longer the case. If you want really great people, you've got to compete for them because everybody else wants them too. And so we help these companies figure out, first of all, what is the story? What is it that they have to offer great candidates? How do they survey their top people and understand what are the core elements of their employer brand, their value prop to employees? Then how do you tell that story? Through photo and video, through a Muse profile. We have a lot of different ways companies can do that, especially kind of once you've gotten these great stories from employees, sharing those to a broader audience. And then finally, how do you distribute that? So how do you make sure that anywhere a company is trying to hire, they have the ability to reach those candidates and to get sort of more context and assets in front of those people to help them decide whether working at Goldman Sachs or New York Life or Facebook is the right place for them.
Should we think of you more like a LinkedIn recruiter or like a media brand that makes revenue from impressions?
We are more of a SaaS company. So it's I don't know if you've heard the sort of word going around New York tech these days, but it's a SaaS-enabled marketplace. That's, I think, probably the closest way. We do compete fairly directly at times with LinkedIn, with Indeed, with Glassdoor. But interestingly, we do also in some ways work well with them. Like we've found a lot of companies that will use their Muse assets and their Muse platform and embed it or link it to some of these other platforms, and it makes the entire kind of sum work better than the individual parts.
And so for those that are not familiar with a SaaS-enabled marketplace, right, help us understand and give examples in specific in your business, right? What part is the marketplace and what part is the SaaS component?
Yeah, so most companies sign up for an annual subscription to TheMuse, and that can be anything from 4 to 5 figures for an SMB or a small mid-market company, all the way up to 6 figures for a major Fortune 1000. And that
What's
includes
the average,
everything.
Kathryn?
That's a good question. So right now the average is between 20 and 30K,
okay.
But the number of enterprise deals is rising quite a bit more quickly than our mid-market business. So I think you'll continue to see that go up. We look at sort of average by category. In that case, you obviously see very different things based on the employee count of a company.
You mean like a financial sector category versus a
No, because we work with businesses of all sizes within a specific industry, more like the employee count of a company. Are they SME, mid-market, or enterprise?
So when you're categorizing,
it's
not by industry, it's by team size.
Exactly. Industry has other effects on the site, but the biggest one in terms of contract size is simply how large is your company, how big are your recruiting needs. Somebody that has 50,000 employees is going to be radically different than somebody with 500 employees. And obviously you see that everywhere in between. So yeah, back to your question about a SaaS-enabled marketplace. Essentially, we have these businesses of various sizes that subscribe to TheMuse. It's an annual subscription. And through that, they get a range of different tools. They have the ability to literally have a profile on the Muse site and hire from our community, but also we give them a number of tools, embeddable sort of, I don't know, widgets for lack of a better word, I need a better word for that, and measurement and analytics, sort of dashboards that allow them to understand how they're doing across different pieces of their recruiting funnel and optimize not just the recruiting they're doing on the Muse, which is the marketplace component, but on their own career site, through their own social channels, etc. So the marketplace is literally on themuse.com, where companies can post job listings and profiles, and we have, again, this sort of audience of millions that might apply directly. But for us, we realized that we were essentially wanted to build some of these products that we started out focusing on their existence within the marketplace and take those to a much broader audience. And actually, I'll give you one example quickly. We have a business we're working with that has, I want to say they have between 50,000 and 150,000 employees. I should know exactly, but
who are we talking about? Can you share?
No, I'd rather not.
That's okay.
Some of our larger clients are sensitive if we don't get their explicit approval to talk about them in the press. I can also be more candid if I haven't identified the client. But they are recruiting for really sought after talent. They need to build up data science, engineering, of course, a wide variety of sort of technical and product related positions. They're having trouble competing with some of these newer and more digitally savvy companies. And so not only are they recruiting via the Muse and hiring people through our channels, but they have a pre-existing social media presence of tens of thousands. They have a talent community that they're not doing a lot with that has, I think, something north of 100,000 members. So how do we not only help them recruit through the Muse, because we've got a great population, a lot of women, a lot of millennials, a lot of digital natives, but how do we also then help them take those lessons and apply it to these existing channels that they may have built up previously as a Fortune 1000 company, but they're not optimizing and fishing from really effectively. And
so are these, if any marketplace, right? Everyone talks about chicken and egg, right? And all the analogies. For you specifically, did you get the traffic, the 50 million people coming first with content, or did you launch as kind of a platform that's really sexy company profiles and then say, oh my gosh, we have to figure out how to get traffic here?
We started with the individual users, the people, although in the sort of span of the company's history, they were both started fairly early. So when the Muse initially launched, 2011, sort of late 2011, September, we just had career-related content, tools, and resources for individuals. And we didn't roll out our first company profile until we had 100,000 people a month using the site.
And were you not making any money at that point, or is it ad driven?
No. We've never had advertising on the site.
Okay.
I think banner advertising has no place on the Muse.
Your guys' site is too beautiful to be destroyed by this vomit. So let me ask you the question though, right? So you went several years then before you introduced this revenue model. How did you support yourself? Where did you get the cash from?
Yeah, so we actually hit 100,000 users a month in about 6 months. So it was not all that much time. The early cash came from my savings account. Yep. So when I started the business, my co-founder and I kind of looked at our bank accounts and we said, all right, based on expenses and things we need to set aside for the business, this is how long we can last. And we got really close to the end.
Was that, wait, Kathryn, was that scary? I mean, was that an actually scary position for you, or had you de-risked it?
No, I mean, it was terrifying.
Can you quantify it? Like, how much did you have in savings and how much did you put in? Like, I mean, were you literally at the brink?
Well, so when I left McKinsey, I had $25,000 in savings. And I was thinking about possibly starting a business, but I didn't have an idea I was in love with yet. And so I got this offer to move to Rwanda and work for the Clinton Health Access Initiative on vaccine introduction. And that was essentially a net neutral offer. So what they said was, we'll give you the flexibility of only working for us for 6 months, and we will give you this incredible experience. But they said as a result, we'll pay all of your expenses, fly you there, housing, food, etc. But we're not going to pay you a proper salary above and beyond that. It'll just be sort of net neutral. And they were a nonprofit, and I said, that sounds great. I would much prefer to have the flexibility and not have the cash.
And how old were you at this point, Kathryn?
25.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, 24 and a half or 25.
So a few years out of college at McKinsey, you get this offer, 25 in your bank account, a great experience, you take it.
Exactly. And I will say, when I started at McKinsey, I had almost nothing in my bank account, but I lived as if I was making half of my salary, because I knew that I wanted to do something that might not pay a lot of money. I wasn't sure whether it was moving to Africa, whether it was starting a business, whether it was something else entirely, but I've always thought that savings are freedom. And so I said, look, I'm making $65K a year, and I'm going to live as if I'm making, how cheaply can I live in Manhattan? Which, by the way, is not easy to do. I used to go to cocktail bars and be like, I'll have the tea, please. And I was notorious for just being, honestly, super cheap.
I'm soda water. I'm still soda water.
Exactly. But you know what? Like every time you do that, you're putting away money for your future. And that's how I looked at it. So I had 25K. When I came back from Rwanda, I still had about 25K. I think I had 24K because I'd done a little bit of traveling. And I started working on actually a business that was pre-Muse, but it was a very similar idea. We created a content platform for professional women. And that was where we laid a lot of the groundwork and said, wait a second, there's this huge need for individual candidates who are thinking about, sorry, not even candidates, humans, people that are thinking, what do I want out of my career? How do I be a better manager? Can I put an emoji in a workplace email? And does that make me seem young or junior, or is it casual and fun? And how do I think about navigating these sort of workplace rules? And so we were building up this content site, and we realized that firstly, people were incredibly hungry for what we were offering. And secondly, that there was an opportunity to do something with employers that would feel so much more human than what was honestly, frankly, the case on most classic job search sites.
Like an Indeed or these other things with no story or emotion.
Absolutely. I mean, even today, in most cases, you are confronted when you go to those sites by a giant blank search box.
Yep.
You have to type something in, and you'll get 3,724 results, and they all look the same. What sort of, I'll get off my soapbox, but I am offended that for so long that was considered adequate for one of the most personal and important decisions in someone's life, which is, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your career? And anyway, I won't go all the way down the rabbit hole, but I really felt like there was an opportunity to change that.
So how much of that 25K did you put in the business?
So I spent about 20K on living expenses with the first company, which was effectively research in some senses. And I didn't spend it on research. I spent it on rent and food and paying for a Metro card so I could get around New York. But I had about 5K left. And to make a long story short, there were 4 of us that started that first kind of project / business. It started as a project, became a business. We had 2 very different visions. And so Alex and I, my current co-founder to this day, sort of split off. The other 2 took that and made it kind of something different, took it in a different direction. And we started TheMuse. And I had about 5K left, which frankly was terrifying because firstly, I was spending, my living expenses were as cheap as I could possibly get them. I had moved out to Brooklyn.
How much per month?
Probably $1,800 all in.
So your 3 months runway.
Exactly. And rent was half of that. Everything else was like blood, sweat, and ramen. And so, we felt like we had to start with the users. So we put up the user side of the platform, of the marketplace first, and we attracted
Which is what? Is this just, Kathryn, is this just you writing?
No. it's funny. I didn't start TheMuse because I knew all the answers. I started it because I knew all the questions and I needed the answers. So I wrote very infrequently in the beginning, but I sourced a lot of the best advice and I knew where to find it. So we went out and tapped a broad community. We didn't have any money. We weren't paying ourselves, much less writers at that point. But we said, look, we can build an audience, and we are building an audience of mostly women who are thinking about what is that next step in my career? And if you have expertise or you want to help other people follow the path that you followed, then we'd love to invite you to contribute to the site. And so the first version of the site was, we probably had about 50 articles or so, career advice, skill building, links out to other resources. And we launched our first job listing about a month later. It was a test. We did it with a little-known Silicon Valley startup called Uber that had about 50 employees at the time. And we decided to see if we could get them some hires from our platform.
Do you make money off the hire like a typical recruiting firm does?
So in that first arrangement, we were supposed to. We don't anymore. It's just the SaaS platform. But in that first one, I think we made $600 off of the sort of email and sort of work that we did. And then there was I forget if it was $2,000 or $2,500 success fee. Unfortunately, Uber made 2 offers from TheMuse, and both people turned down those jobs. So we didn't get the success money. But the caliber of people who came through was so high that we felt like we had proved we were onto something.
So fast forward to today. This was 2011. You started it. You have two of you co-founded. By the way, did you split 50-50?
No, not
How'd
quite.
that conversation go?
It was honestly not that bad. I mean, here's the thing. So there were 3 of us in the early days. Alex and I were kind of all in full time. And then Melissa was she had been at McKinsey with us. She was accepted to a PhD in cancer biology. And we were trying to convince her to put that PhD on hold to come and do the business. And what we ended up deciding was she had a smaller percentage, and she actually worked on TheMuse and did her PhD first year full time, then put the PhD on pause, was full-time on TheMuse for a year, and now is back doing her PhD, not active in the business, but I'm actually in her wedding as a bridesmaid in a couple months. So
that's
we're still
amazing.
very close. Yeah, she's incredible.
So she's still on the cap table then?
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
And then Alex and I, we had gone full-time and taken on risk in slightly different ways. So, I mean, it's a tough conversation. Anytime you're talking about equity, it's not something I would do for fun ever.
Gosh, no.
But at the same time, we both came to it with, we want to work together. We want to make this happen. We want to get somewhere that feels fair to both of us. And that was never going to feel perfect to both of us, right? But it needs to feel tolerable to both of us. And so it's close to being even, but there was small differences based on, again, how much risk, how long each of us had been sort of without another full-time job, because we left our roles at different times. And I think we got to a place that we felt pretty good about.
That's great. Kathryn, we have a few minutes left. So again, equity, there's someone that was early with you, have a very small portion, and then you guys basically split the rest, basically equal with some tweaks to make it fair. Talk to me about funding. You raised capital. How much?
Yeah, so we raised about $100K in January of 2012. Plus we got into Y-combinator. So that came with about $170,000. That was our first seed funding. It was very hard won. We ended up over the last couple of years raising over $28 million. So we've had a little better luck with fundraising. But the sort of first 3.5 years of TheMuse's life were pretty lean. It was seed funding, bootstrapping, making revenue here and there. Our product we've charged for employers from the very beginning because we didn't feel like we had a choice to go with a freemium model. That said, we always wanted it to be free to individual users, so that was really important to us. And then we raised a $10 million Series A in spring of 2015, and then a $16 million Series B last spring/summer.
So it's almost a year from that last raise. So you're either in fundraising mode right now, or Indeed has a $50 million offer on the table to acquire you. Which one is it?
Well, luckily, when you're in a business that makes a lot of money, you don't quite have to burn so fast as companies that rely on investors to keep them afloat. So we're in great shape.
Are you break even or close to it?
No, but we've been at sort of closer or farther at various points, and we have a fair amount of control based on how fast we want to grow, what we want to invest in, whether we want to let that gap get further or narrower. And I think that, again,
Your burn rate, is that the gap you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. And there's lots of different ways to build a business, so I'm kind of skeptical of people who claim to have found the one true path. But I think for us, it's been really helpful to have structured the business in such a way that, our customers pay for a fair portion of our growth, and we can use venture capital really to accelerate, not to sort of
support.
Yeah, exactly, to support.
How many employers are you working with today as paying customers?
I think it's about 600 active on annual subscriptions.
You say active. That I'm going to read into that and say either some people have started and then stopped, or it's a seasonal business. If they've stopped, why have they stopped? The ones that weren't happy.
Yeah, so companies that have stopped, sometimes they go out of business.
Yep. We
joke that we would never do this, by the way, but we joke that we basically know sometimes when somebody's getting acquired. We didn't realize this pattern at the beginning, but we will regularly have companies, especially, again, tech companies, up-and-coming companies, that will suddenly email out of the blue. We think that they're very happy, and they'll email out of the blue and say, I need my profile to come down. And we used to just freak out because we thought, what's wrong?
Churn,
we love the service, churn. And inevitably, 4 to 12 weeks later, they get acquired. So that's the reason. We also, in fairness, because by the way,
that's valuable information if you're an investor.
I know. Yeah. That's why I was joking. We would never actually publicize that, but it is funny internally. Sometimes we have our suspicions.
Yep.
And then, of course, because our product is, it's a marketplace. It depends to some extent. Like, some employers are better or worse or figuring out, like, how do they actually successfully market themselves to candidates. Yep. So occasionally we have companies that are like, we only want to hire iOS developers. And some companies do that very successfully on the Muse, and others really struggle. And it honestly depends. Like, can you make a case for why an iOS developer with a lot of good options would want to come work at your business? If you can, great, they're out there. If you can't, you're going to have a harder time.
600 customers times an average selling price of about 30 grand per year puts you at somewhere above 18 million. Am I doing the math correctly?
I don't comment on our active revenue, but we have a wide range of kind of customer sizes and types. So yeah, you'll have to wait till the next reporter scoop to figure out whether you're right or not.
You guys will have to come on and watch the YouTube video and judge Kathryn's smile when I ask that question to figure out what the real number is. So guys, I'm so glad to be back in Austin. I just got back from a major tour of Southeast Asia. Went to Sydney, Bangkok, Bali, and Japan. And, I always get sick when I travel. And this particular trip, my gosh, 15 different airports, 20 different hotels. I mean, imagine flushing in airport bathrooms. I was worried about germs and getting all the nutrition I need. I mean, finding a restaurant in Japan, difficult because nothing's in English. So it's hard enough to figure out the train system. But my point is, I had a guy named Drew Canoli on the show who said, Nathan, if you're concerned about that, take these little green packets with you. You just mix them once per day with water. They'll keep you super healthy. You get all your nutrients, and they'll keep you from getting sick. So I took them. And guys, they worked unbelievably well. I got no sickness, just mixed them with water once per day. They didn't make my water bottles all sticky. That's like nice. A lot of these mixers, they make them sticky. It was very clean and smooth. Took them once per day, never got sick. So they've got 11 superfoods. And they're perfect if you're not traveling, but you're just on the go from your office to work. So you can check them out at nathanlatka.com/juice. That's nathanlatka.com/juice. Let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
I love The Hard Thing About Hard Things. That's probably one you get all the time. I also read a book called Traction recently by a guy named Gino Wickerman, which is, anyway, such an odd name that stuck with me, that I really enjoyed, about some of the basics of running a business. It's for small businesses, but I think it's interesting for people that are scaling as well.
And you've just launched your new book. Tell us about it real quick.
Yeah, it's called The New Rules of Work. It came out the week before last with Crown Business, Penguin Random House. Super excited. Reviews have been great. It's essentially a to Z guide to the modern workplace. So how do you figure out what you want to do, go out and get that job, and then succeed, manage up, delegate, be more productive, all of the things you need to do to sort of effectively navigate the 21st century workplace.
The New Rules of Work. We'll link to that in the show notes. Number 2, Kathryn, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Oh my goodness. I follow and study a huge number of CEOs. No one that's sort of above all. I would say everything from, let's see, Jennifer at Rent the Runway is doing some super interesting stuff right now. Elon Musk is probably on everyone's list. There's a company called Andela. Jeremy Johnson's the CEO. He's fantastic. I'm very biased. I don't know. That's probably 3. I'll leave it at 3.
Okay. And then number 3 of 5 here, your favorite online tool, like Acuity scheduling.
So I love Boomerang by Biden, which lets you pop emails out of your inbox and bring them back. And then I'm going to cheat and give you a second, which is Pocket, because I'm a voracious reader. And I'm just very curious. Like I just love stuff. I love knowing things. I love reading, thinking, discussing. And yet it can be really distracting in the middle of the workday when a great article gets emailed to you or something. So I save it to Pocket, and it just automatically uploads to my phone. And then I can read it on the subway or an airplane or something like that.
Number 4, Kathryn, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
7.
Okay.
It varies. I need more sleep. I'm not one of those people that's like, I can get by on 4. I'm really unhappy if I get less than about 6.5.
Yep.
So I try and average, between 6.5 and 7.5. Some weeks I do better. Some weeks I do worse.
And then take us home here with the last one. Take us back to your 20-year-old self. What do you wish that Kathryn knew?
I wish she knew it was okay to be different. I stressed out a lot about being, a bit of an odd duck growing up. And I wish she knew that everything worth doing is hard. And so persistence and grit are probably 2 of the most useful things. And I think I'm really grateful to the way I grew up. We didn't have a ton of money, but I really figured out how to kind of just handle, situations as they're dealt and keep on going. And that's been so helpful. And so I think 20-year-old Kathryn would have enjoyed knowing that it's going to work out okay.
There you guys have it from Kathryn, founder of TheMuse. It is okay to be different. Everything will work out okay. Again, came out, was working McKinsey, $65,000 salary, saved up about 25 grand because she was really smart at managing expenses. Then went on an amazing journey with the Clinton Foundation out in Rwanda, doing great work. Came back, launched the company, put about 5 grand in, which is basically all she had because she spent the other 20 grand on living expenses in New York. TheMuse is now, again, growing super fast, over 50 million active folks there annually. Again, connecting with brands and brands creating great company profiles. Over 600 employers are using TheMuse. Again, average selling price for those contracts to work with TheMuse between 20 and 30 grand for a specific cohort per year. And again, launched in 2011. Kathryn, thank you so much for taking us to the top.
All right. Thanks so much.
If you enjoyed Kathryn today, go back and listen to yesterday's episode where the Smart Desk King breaks down how he sold 10 million of his smart desks. The ones that go up and down, you can stand, you can sit, it's very intelligent. Go listen to that one now. It would mean the world to me if you guys got any value from this episode, if you would go leave a review on iTunes right now and then subscribe. I hustle like heck to get these episodes out every freaking day for you guys. And trust me, I love it. I would do it with no listeners, but boy, oh boy, it makes my day and it makes my team's day when we see great reviews and get your feedback. So thanks so much. Okay, Top Tribe, I love giving away free money. I feel like Oprah giving away cars, and I have something special for you today. How many of you have heard our super sharp guests talk about success they've had with Facebook and Google Ads? Well, all of you listening right now, yes, if you're listening, you get $100 in free AdWords. Here's how you get it, okay? Again, thanks for listening. Get the free $100 from Google, right, when you sign up with my website host provider, HostGator. Go sign up now to get your free money. HostGator.com/Nathan. Again, that's HostGator.com/Nathan.